Shalom, Barak the Yahweh, Barak the Yahushai, Barak the Yahweh, Barak the Yahushai, Barak the Yahweh, and Barak the Yahushai. I'd like to give all praises to Yahweh, Bashem Yahushai, double honor to the apostles, elders, and bishops, great millstone that taught us his word. Peace and salutations to the hopeful elect across the planet Earth, pushing this truth and sincerity in the spirit and in truth and sincerity. I just want to talk about the punishment of thy iniquity is accomplished, So this punishment that we're in, being under these curses and up under these other nations, we're almost at the end of that. And it's time for, Yahweh Shai to return and to raise up, his joint heirs, his elect men, to govern the planet in righteousness, that new kingdom, or that new heavens and that new earth, the kingdom of heaven on the planet Earth under Yahweh Shai, man. So, but it's been a long time coming, man. We've been slaves, been at the bottom of the barrel in America since its inception, and basically, we've been under these other nations, since pretty much since we were a nation, But yeah, but this time, it's almost up, man. It's not forever, you know. There's a time limit, and then Israel's gonna inherit those blessings. We dealt with these curses. Now it's time for us, or for Israel, starting with the elect, to get these blessings, these pleasures forevermore, man. This first scripture is Lamentations 4:22. The punishment of thine iniquity is accomplished, O daughter of Zion. Yeah, Israel. He will no more carry thee away into captivity. He will visit thine iniquity, O daughter of Edom. He will discover thy sins. So it says, O daughter of Zion, it's talking about the Israelites. He will no more carry thee away into captivity. Yeah, because he's going to establish that new covenant. It's where we're never going to go off again. We're not going to commit iniquity. We're not going to sin. We're going to keep the laws, statutes, and commandments 100%. So the Lord's going to have to establish that new covenant and turn our stony heart to a fleshy heart and make us, keep these commandments, perfectly to where we won't go off. And that's one of the reasons why we went into captivity. Is because we went off on these laws, these statutes and commandments, man. Worshiping other gods, and all that. But so the Lord said He will no more carry thee away into captivity. Yeah, so once the new covenant is established, once Yahweh Shai returns, man, we're not going to go into slavery ever again. A nation's not going to rise up. The Lord's not going to have to rise up another nation or to punish us, to put us in slavery again. We're going to enslave these other nations, man. He that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity. The sons of strangers are going to build up thy walls, just like we built up America. He will visit the iniquity of daughter of Edom. He's going to discover thy sins, So Edom's going to get that payback. So-called white man, the Edomites. Now it's time for them to go into slavery. It's time for them to feel these curses. And the Lord said He's going to put on them double, what we had to go through. So the Lord is going to visit, Edom and all these other nations as well, man. Because nothing, no other nation has suffered the way, that we suffered. This is Daniel 9:12. And He hath confirmed His words, which He spake against us and against our judges that judged us, by bringing upon us a great evil. For under the whole heaven hath not been done as hath been done upon Jerusalem. Yeah, so no other nation has went through this punishment that we went through, man. Just here in America, the history of America, slavery, and all the atrocities that took place just here in America. What they, are willing to tell us what happened. even after slavery, Jim Crow, up until this very day, where it's racism and hatred is a little bit more covert, but it's still in the hearts of these men. They still hatred is perpetual hatred, as the scriptures say. And now with Trump being in the office, a lot of that hatred's coming to the light. You know, people are getting more emboldened, especially as we come to the end of this empire, and at the end of this man's rule, and at the end of this man's economic power. We're starting to see it more and more. That hatred growing up. So we're talking about race riots. So all that's coming down the pipe. But it says by bringing upon us a great evil. Yeah, we went through a great evil in this place. For under the whole heaven have not been done to us as hath been done upon Jerusalem. So no other nation really went through what we went through, but they're going to go through it. They're going to have to deal with it. They're going to feel this fire, this punishment. So our punishment is almost up. That's why we look forward to these things. Time of Jacob's trouble, hour of temptation, and ultimately that nuclear destruction, because that's going to usher in Yahweh's kingdom, which is going to be the end of our punishment. It says 2 Ezra 6 and 56, whereas the other people, I'll start 55. And this have I spoken before thee, O Lord, because thou madest the world for our sakes. Yeah, at the end of the day, this whole world was created for Israel, man, for our sakes. And now we can't really enjoy, the earth. Guys with kids, children, they can't even enjoy their children, That's because thou made the world for our sakes. And as for the other people, which also come of Adam, all these other nations, thou hast said they are nothing, but be like unto spittle, and hast likened the abundance of them unto a drop that falleth from a vessel. And now, O Lord, behold, these heathen, which have ever been reputed as nothing, have begin to be lords over us, to devour us. So these other nations, which are considered nothing, the eyes of the Most High, man, they become lords. The Lord put them as lords over us. That's part of the curses, that we have to go to the enemy for the want of all things, man. So we were really messed up in this place, mentally, psychologically, even physically. We're not getting the proper nutrients in the food and all that. So we're just completely, messed up in this place. But we, thy people, whom thou hast called thy firstborn, thy only begotten, thy fervent lover, are given into their hands. So if the world now be made for our sakes, why do we not possess an inheritance with the world? How long shall this endure? Well, because we're dealing with this punishment. How long? That's what the prophets have always asked. How long? When is the kingdom going to be established? How long shall this endure? Well, we're almost at that time. We're at the end of this thing. How long until the Lord comes back? The Lord said he's going to return in like manner. But, these things must come to pass first, as the Lord said. What things? The prophecies. So that's how we know we're close. 2026 could be the year. 2027 could be the year. More than likely, man, we don't have another 5 years in this place, man. I don't see there being, man, the way things are going right now. Trump could be the very last president, man. Really just the economy's basically on the verge of collapse. That's why they're making all these robots, these AIs, because there ain't gonna be no jobs left. There ain't gonna be no jobs out here, so they gotta create these robots. You can't have a whole nation of people, without jobs and without a way of life. So they're gonna push in this universal basic income, But in order to get that, you got to have that microchip. So everything's falling into place. Goods and services will still be available because these robots are going to be doing all the work. But you have to have that, the people out here, man. You got to give them some money, or else they're going to destroy the infrastructure. They're going to riot. They're going to kill each other. So in order to maintain some type of balance in society, you got to give them a wage. You got to give them food, basic necessities. In order to get that stuff, you got to have that universal basic income, man. In order to get that UBI, you got to have that chip. That's the way it looks like it's going, man. The scriptures say, no man shall be able to buy nor sell, at least he have the chip, at least he have the mark. So he's going to have to push that mark some way. That's how we're close to this thing, man. And also the world war. The war is brewing up all over the place. So, that's how we're close. How long shall this endure? Well, no man knows the time and date, but we know we're close through these prophecies, man. But the point being, man, these heathen have devoured us, destroyed us, and we're close to the end, man. So then why would you want to save these other nations, man? This is Psalms 83:2. For lo, thine enemies make a tumult, and they that hate thee have lifted up the head. They have taken crafty counsel against thy people, and have consulted against thy hidden ones. And they have said, come, let us cut them off from being a nation, that the name of Israel may be no more in remembrance. For they have consulted together with one consent. They are confederate against thee. If you read on, it lists all the nations, man. Edom, Arabs, Moabites, and Asians, Africans. They all were confederate against thee. They all came together and said, come, let us cut them off from being a nation. So they all played their hand at destroying us. So then why would you want to deliver, these other nations of people, man? Why would you want to do that? See, that's how far gone and destroyed our people are, man. Like we read in Daniel. He says, bringing upon us a great evil, for under the whole heaven have not been done as hath been done upon Israel. So we are completely messed up out here mentally, man, psychologically. People are destroyed from mental health issues, depression, all these different, mental problems, man. Self-hatred, Stockholm syndrome, So a whole group of people, you see that every day, every time you go out, these other nations don't like you, man. You can feel it. You're walking around the mall, hell, Black Friday, everybody's out shopping. You're out there shopping. You go to the mall. You'll feel these other nations don't want you around, man. They don't like you, man. Hell, even our people, they don't like you, You got certain tribes that don't like each other, man. Everybody hates Judah, But that's part of them curses. They're going to come up out and Lord's going to remove that. But, as far as these other heathen nations, they said, come, let us cut them off from being a nation. They were confederate against us. And we went into slavery under every one of them. So that's why the scriptures say, he that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity. So we're going to enslave all the nations, man. So you're not going to be able to save them, all right? No matter how much you want to. But then 2/3 of our people are going to have to perish right along with them on this side and be brought back, in the right mind. Says Baruch 4:25. My children, suffer patiently the wrath that has come upon you from the Most High. Now, what's that wrath? These curses, this captivity that we're under here in America, this lowest state that we're in. Back in Lamentations, it says the punishment of thy iniquity is accomplished. So we're almost there, man. The punishment of thine iniquity. That's why we gotta suffer patiently the wrath that's come upon us from the Most High. For thine enemy hath persecuted thee, but shortly thou shalt see his destruction, and shalt tread upon his neck. So that day is coming, man. He persecuted us. Our enemy has persecuted us, man. We just read Psalms. All these nations are our enemy, really, because they all were confederate against us. It's not just Esau's. All these nations are our enemy, really. It says, for lo, thy enemies make a tumult, and they that hate thee have lifted up the head, man. So it says, my children suffer patiently the wrath that has come upon you from the Most High. For thine enemy hath persecuted thee. You've been persecuted. You're about to get persecuted even more, but this time for righteousness. But shortly thou shalt see his destruction, and shalt tread upon his neck. Real soon, man. That's why I gotta watch as well as pray, man, in these end times, man. But all these heathen are gonna know it, man. The kingdom, they're gonna know why we went into captivity. This is Ezekiel 39:21. And I will set my glory among the heathen, and all the heathen shall see my judgment that I have executed, and my hand that I have laid upon them. The hand that I have laid upon the heathen. You're in Baruch, man. Thou shalt see his and shalt tread upon his neck. So the house of Israel shall know that I am the Lord, Yahweh Shai, their power from that day forward. There's certain scriptures that talk about how there shall not be any night there. The sun and the ordinance, the sun and the moon, and the ordinance of heaven are still going to do their thing. They're going to have daytime, nighttime, winter, summer seasons. So it's not talking about that. It's talking about how all of Israel is going to know the truth. All the world is going to know the truth. Not going to be in a mental darkness, mental dark state. They're all going to have the light. They're all going to have the knowledge of Yahweh Shai. And the heathen shall know that the house of Israel went into captivity for their iniquity. For our transgression. Because they trespassed against me. Therefore I hid my face from them and gave them into the hand of their enemies. So fell they all by the sword. So these heathens are going to know that they're not superior to us, It was our power that put us in that position. And our power is going to get us out of this position, Scripture said, wait ye upon me till I rise up to the prey. But yeah, man, the time of our punishment is up, We just got a few more prophecies to go through, We don't have much time left now. Can't be, man. Everything is heavy. Everything's going fast and furious, man. These prophecies are moving fast and furious, man. So the punishment of thy iniquity is accomplished, man. And we're almost at that time. With that, shalom.